Hello, and welcome back to This Month on the Railroad, my monthly train news series. This episode is for September of 2022, which was quite the interesting month, so let's get going. On the 1st of September, a meeting was held between businesses and government officials to discuss a potential overnight Boston to Montreal passenger train. This project has been on the table for quite some time, but this meeting fostered a renewed interest in the project. While it's likely that this train will be privately operated, few details exist thus far. On the same day, the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority approved $810 million in funding for a fleet of 102 new CAF Type 10 light rail vehicles to replace the aging Type 7 and 8 cars on the Green Line. These so-called supercars are longer than existing cars, and based on these concept photos, they're also far uglier. First cars are set to be delivered beginning in 2026, with railcar deliveries occurring into 2031. 2 days later, Amtrak's long-distance Siemens Charger locomotives made an unintentional debut on the Capitol Limited after an older Genesis locomotive failed. While this was not an official debut for the Chargers on this route, the trailing 310 was indeed providing power for the train, so I guess it counts. A few days later on the 7th, the first rebuilt Canadian National -9 locomotive was spotted testing at Wabtec's plant in Fort Worth, Texas. Unit number 3300, reclassified as an AC44C6M, is the first of CN's new modernized -9s, of which the quantity on order is unknown. Of course, converting a -9 to AC44 specs isn't exactly groundbreaking, as at this point almost every Class 1 freight railroad owns some variant of the AC44CM. On the 12th, Ontario Northland unveiled a GP38 in an orange and black Every Child Matters paint scheme. This makes them the third Canadian railroad to paint a special unit for Orange Shirt Day. On the 13th, yet another special unit was unveiled, this time on CSX. Rebuilt SD70MACH number 4568 emerged from the Huntington shops in an Operation Lifesaver paint scheme commemorating the Rail Safety Organization's 50th anniversary. 3 days later, once again in paint scheme news, Union Pacific announced some minor changes to their recently revised paint scheme after hearing employee feedback. While the issues I noted in the last episode weren't entirely fixed, now the Union Pacific Shield logo is smaller on the nose of the locomotive and the American flag is slightly smaller. Interestingly, this means that a few units are still roaming the system in the pre-revision paint scheme. On the same day, the U.S. rail industry was set to go into a state of utter chaos, but as the impending rail strike was called off at the last second, not a whole lot ended up happening. A few days later, after a month-long shutdown of the MBTA Orange Line, service returned with improved tracks, cleaner stations, and most relevantly, less of the 40-year-old Hawker-Siddeley cars. Later in the month, on the 22nd, the MBTA removed the first old Orange Line cars off property, planning to scrap them on the South Shore of Massachusetts. Additionally, on the 19th, after a Freedom of Information request, I got some new news on the Metra SD70MACH locomotives, which as far as I know hasn't been made public yet. The first unit, PRLX number 3907, arrived at the Transportation Technology Center in Pueblo, Colorado last month, and it'll remain there in testing through mid-December. After it's done, the locomotive will be shipped back to ProgressRail in Georgia for any necessary modifications. Meanwhile, while the first engine is being tested at TTCI, the second SD70 will be unveiled in Chicago next month. As of right now, the first SD70 MACHs are on track to enter service in the first or second quarter of 2023. Honestly, I was surprised at how easy it was to make a FOIA request, so perhaps in the future I might be able to break even more news like this. The next day, on the 20th, Wabtec received its biggest order yet for FLXDrive battery electric locomotives, with a whopping 150 units planned for export to Kazakhstan in 2024. This order puts Wabtec far ahead of ProgressRail, who's offering a similar battery locomotive which up to this point only has a few orders. Speaking of ProgressRail's battery locomotive though, on the same day, a new member of the Joule locomotive family was unveiled with a hybrid diesel and battery model known as the GT38H. This locomotive is the first of its kind, and two are planned to enter service in Brazil within the next year. While this is once again news about these locomotives being exported outside the US, it's entirely possible that this technology will make its way onto railroads here in North America. Continuing with the theme of next-generation zero-emissions rail equipment, the next day, Stadler unveiled their first hydrogen fuel cell-powered train, with one FLIRT ZEMU planned to enter service on the new Aero commuter rail in California in the next few years. In the same unveiling, it was also announced that the state of California ordered 4 identical 4-car hydrogen-powered trains supposedly for use on Amtrak California services. The first of these trains are set to be delivered in late 2026, with as many as 25 more to be ordered. This will be Amtrak's first hydrogen-powered trains. On the same day, MBTA F40PH-3C number 1070 was spotted testing on Wabtec's test track in Erie, Pennsylvania, but instead of being painted in the standard purple MBTA paint, it was painted all black, leading many rail fans to suspect that it might be a heritage unit. In the next month or so, 1070 should be fully painted into whatever paint scheme it may receive, and all will be revealed then. The next day, the MTA finalized its plans to remodel Penn Station following the success of Amtrak's newly remodeled Moynihan Train Hall. This remodel will upgrade the NJ Transit and Long Island Railroad portions of Penn Station, in addition to preparing the station for future Metro North trains in 2027. On the same day, Amtrak made a big announcement pledging to go zero emissions by 2045. While this is promising news in terms of the modernization of Amtrak, the official press release didn't include many details as to what exactly they're doing. Hopefully electrification is in the cards. On the 23rd, the future Valley Link Rail project in California, operating between Dublin and Stockton, announced its plans to potentially use similar hydrogen fuel cell Stadler FLIRT trains on its future service in the region. Quite a bit of news relating to California this month. Keeping with that theme, on the same day, BNSF Railway announced its order of 4 battery-electric SD70J locomotives from ProgressRail. After receiving money from a state grant, BNSF ordered these locomotives to begin testing zero-emissions equipment in 2024. These engines will be relegated almost exclusively to Southern California. Continuing the California news, on the 24th, CalTrain staged its first public viewing of the new electric train sets, in which 2 were displayed in San Francisco for the public to see. Moving along quite well, CalTrain is still on schedule to begin electrified service in late 2024. Finally, on the 28th, Amtrak's Cascades returned to Vancouver, British Columbia after 2.5 years of suspended service. In March of 2020, Amtrak halted service north of Seattle, but now that it's back, all but one cross-border Amtrak service has been restored. Anyways, that's September. A lot more news ahead in the month of October, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you then.